Right now in South Korea, a truly bizarre and shocking reality is unfolding. Thousands of men are walking away from the domestic dating market in favor of international marriage, and the numbers are climbing faster than anyone expected. Specifically, marriages between Korean men and Japanese women have skyrocketed, jumping 40% in just a single year to over 1,100 cases. These are not just random encounters, they are professionally supported with AI-driven translation, cultural training, and legal help. And here is the kicker. The divorce rate for these couples is below 4%, which is remarkably stable compared to the average. Yet, if you jump onto popular local online forums, you would think the country is collapsing under the weight of some catastrophic failure.
Wait, hold on a second. If these men are finding partners, the divorce rates are low, and everyone is supposedly happy, why is there so much screaming and hostility online about it?
That is the million-dollar question, and the answer is not what you think. It is not about love, and it is not about culture. It is about a market that has completely broken down. The domestic dating scene in Korea has become a hyper-competitive, high-stakes gamble. Marriage here is not just about two people liking each other. It has become a brutal economic transaction. The pressure to provide massive upfront capital, specifically owning an expensive apartment before even thinking about marriage, has turned the whole process into an all-or-nothing deal. For many men, the entry price is simply too high. So, when they act like rational consumers and look for a market with better value, in this case, international marriage, the domestic market absolutely loses its mind.
I just cannot do it anymore. The expectations are insane. I have to be a high earner, I have to have a house, and I still have to be the perfect provider. It is just not worth the emotional drain.
But that is just the standard. If you want a good life, you have to be able to afford it. Why are you even looking at other options?
Because I want someone who respects what I bring to the table without needing to bankrupt myself just to start a family. I found someone who actually appreciates me for who I am.
The rise of these international marriage services is no accidental phenomenon. It is a calculated response to a profound market failure. Firms like Modu are aggressively optimizing the matching process using AI-driven tools that minimize friction, turning a previously chaotic and uncertain endeavor into a streamlined, structured venture. By providing one-to-one real-time translation and tailored cultural education, these firms bridge the gap, ensuring that the divorce rate for these couples remains remarkably low at less than 4%, a statistic that sharply contradicts the dire predictions often found in domestic forums. They have effectively commodified the search for a partner, transforming the high-stakes gamble of international dating into a managed, lower-risk alternative. This professionalization is capitalizing on a massive supply-demand imbalance, ensuring that the core value proposition stability, compatibility, and a significantly reduced barrier to entry remains a highly profitable business model. It signals a shift from individuals aimlessly seeking partners to a managed transition from a dysfunctional domestic model to a successful internationally facilitated one. But why would they actually demand this level of economic perfection? It comes down to a zero-sum game mentality. Women in their 30s who are facing immense pressure to find secure, financially stable partners are feeling the heat. They have been told their whole lives that they deserve the best, the top-tier partner, and now that those men are opting out and choosing international routes, these women are panicking. Their anxiety is not just about being alone, it is about losing control over the market price of marriageable men. It is a defense mechanism. They are lashing out at men who choose international partners because those men are effectively breaking the monopoly on marriageable candidates. It is not about the foreign women, it is about the fear that their own expectations, which were previously the norm, are now becoming obsolete. This tension is amplified by a systemic breakdown driven by acute information asymmetry. Within the digital echo chambers of platforms like Blind, a distorted reality takes root and hardens. Negative anecdotes and rumors regarding foreign partners are amplified, while the empirical statistical success of stable and happy international couples is ignored or actively dismissed. This disinformation campaign serves as a defensive perimeter, safeguarding the perceived legitimacy of the domestic dating market's sky-high barriers. When men choose to circumvent these obstacles, the visceral backlash isn't truly about safeguarding true love, it is fundamentally about protecting the market price of marriageable men. It is an act of economic protectionism in a market that is no longer insulated. The profound irony here is that by steadfastly clinging to these rigid, unsustainable expectations, those who dictate the domestic price have effectively orchestrated their own obsolescence, leaving them to react with panic as the market they presumed they controlled permanently shifts elsewhere.
So you are saying this whole online war is just because the asking price for marriage has gone up, and men are finally just saying no and shopping somewhere else?
Exactly. And here is where it gets really dark. When people share their positive experiences about international marriage, they get torn to shreds. Why? Because if these couples are happy, it proves that the domestic market demands were not actually necessary. It proves that a happy, stable life does not require a fortune in real estate or rigid, exhausting roles. That reality is the ultimate threat to the existing order. The most shocking part is the hypocrisy. These critics claim they want real love, yet they are the ones who turned marriage into a balance sheet in the first place. When the consumers, the men, refuse to pay the inflated price and find a better deal elsewhere, the ones who set the price get angry. It is a classic backfire. By pushing for such high, unsustainable standards, they effectively price themselves out of their own market. The cold, hard logic of the marketplace is ruthless. When you demand too much for too long, people will eventually look for a better offer. And now that they have, the entire system is panicking because they have no way to get those customers back without lowering their prices, which they absolutely refuse to do. The long-term sociological consequences of this trend are, quite frankly, sobering. If this trajectory holds, we are not viewing a fleeting adjustment, but a permanent structural reconfiguration of South Korean society. We are witnessing a deepening social fragmentation, where the chasm between those pursuing traditional domestic paths and those adopting international solutions is widening at an accelerating rate. This transcends mere demographic analysis, although the precipitous decline in birth rates will undoubtedly intensify as these prohibitive barriers persist. It represents the near-total erosion of the capacity for men and women to foster organic, mutually rewarding connections. Without a fundamental recalibration of how gender dynamics and economic expectations are managed, we are likely to see drastically increased social isolation for those who find themselves caught in the void between the old, unattainable market expectations and the new, pragmatic reality. The profound tragedy is that the potential for genuine, healthy partnership is being sacrificed on the altar of a transactional, hyper-financialized marriage culture that has become fundamentally alienated from basic human needs and interpersonal sustainability. But this is not just about dating. This is a sign of a society that has lost the ability to have a normal human connection because everything is measured in financial gain. When you turn life into a business, do not be surprised when people start acting like businessmen. The tragedy here is not that international marriages are happening, it is that domestic relationships have been so heavily financialized that they have become a source of conflict rather than partnership. If you think this is just a passing trend, think again. This is likely to become a permanent feature of life here. As long as the barriers to entry remain sky-high, the exodus will continue, and the divide will only deepen. We are watching a total restructuring of how people relate to one another, and frankly, it is not pretty. The ones who are stuck in the old way of thinking are being left behind, not because of some grand conspiracy, but because they simply refuse to see the market changing under their feet. It is a brutal lesson in supply and demand, and it is happening in real time. We are talking about the basic building blocks of society being rearranged, and nobody seems to want to admit why. Fuel the truth at dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.